Whopper, 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 Whopper.
Just kidding. Ha 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 ha. Laugh, Brett.
Oh, shit, hold on, let's redo that.
Chicken, 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 chicken.
Just kidding. Ha 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 ha. You know what this is. Me and Brett are talking about football again. So at the beginning of the year, we had predictions for how every team would do, how the standings would line up, who would win the division, who would go to the playoffs. We predicted how those playoffs would shake out. We predicted champions of the Super Bowl. And today we're going to look back and see how great we did. Isn't that right, Brett?
Yeah, before we rediscover our original opinions, I just want to say, no matter what, the NFL is rigged. It's obviously written by people, kind of like, how WWE is all fake. So I think all of my guesses and hot takes at the beginning of the season are still justified. It's just that the NFL did whatever they had to do to make more money, and in turn made me
Is it all about greed, or is there a deeper problem here?
I think it's all the deep state,
Do your own research, folks. I mean, seriously, don't believe what the mainstream media tells you. The NFL is fake.
Yeah, fuck you, ESPN.
Is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we dive in?
Yeah, the Eagles being the number one team in the NFC is just terrorism. I think there's some weird witchcraft going on. Maybe Jeff Lurie is in a coven or something.
Do you think that that was a part of a secret part of the deal to get Brittany Griner back? Was Putin said, make sure the Eagles get the number one seed? Do you think that was a part of it?
I think it would be smart for the FBI and a good waste of resources and time to investigate that clan.
Hey, a lot of people are saying it, okay? A lot of people. So, Brett, do you want the good news or the bad news first?
I would like the good news first.
All right. Let me give you the top 5 best takes, the things that we got correct this year. And I'm going to go from 5 to 1. So it's going to be in order. And
Okay.
You can argue with me about if you think the order is correct. Because I did put my one of my predictions number 1. So, okay. So number 5. You were pretty anti Matt Rule and Cliff Kingsbury. It's not the hottest take, so I put it lower.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious they were getting canned.
You mentioned that Matt Rule might not last the full season. You said Kingsbury would be fired after the season. You were right on those two. Soapbox, go.
Dude, the moment Matt Rule decided he's gonna have 2 quarterbacks, I knew he had to get fired. And the highlight of the Cliff Kingsbury era is gonna be the photo of him inside that giant ass mansion.
Dude was living large.
I mean, it was kind of obvious. Everyone was talking about it, and no one was ever. I know the Cardinals had a really good season last year, but look at them now, right? And they're gonna be messed up for a bit.
That is right. So the number 4 of our best, I called the Raiders regression. I said that the Raiders finally had something going right for them, and they canned the guy who came in and helped with that, and they hired a snake. I'm pretty sure all of that was true. The Raiders had a huge regression. Do you think they're going to turn it around year 2, or is this just who the Raiders are?
No, they're fucked. So, dude, Carr's gone. Devontae Adams is probably gonna go, since Carr was the entire reason he went there. And so now they have Jarrett Stidham. There's a giant rumor going around right now that Tom Brady is the quarterback they're dead set on. And knowing Mark Davis, I would not be surprised at all if that was his plan. Just bring in Tom Brady at 47 and save the franchise. And they didn't take Josh Jacobs' option, and he had a career year, so. And he's not coming back for him either.
So number 3, it was not the hardest thing to predict ever. this team was purposefully trying to be bad, but still, there were multiple teams that people thought would be the number 1 overall pick, but you correctly picked Chicago. Now that you look back at it, it makes sense that it was in the running between Chicago and Houston, right?
Yeah, I mean, they literally, that last game they played decided it. Like the last games they both played, right? Decided the whole thing. Chicago laid an egg against Minnie. And that was kind of cool of Lovie Smith to just like screw the Texans out of the first overall pick. It's just like, fuck you guys, you're going to probably fire me.
And they did that later that day. They didn't even wait until Monday. They just, later that day, they were done.
But I mean, both of those not really the Bears. At least the Bears have kind of a direction right now. And they can do like a lot of things with that first pick. But Houston was very clearly tanking all year. The Bears were just fucking bad. And then once Fields got hurt, they just kind of shut it down.
I really do, like, I'm a Bears hater. I'm a Vikings fan, okay? So, hand up. But I really do think that the Bears have a bright future. I think Fields, he might have his limitations throwing for now until they can get some elite wide receiver talent. But I think he's really, really good with his legs. And I think this team could get a couple first-round picks or a first and a third or something from Indy so that Indy can leapfrog Houston. I think that the Bears can set themselves up really well. I think they can rebuild right. And I hope I'm wrong because I do not want to see the Chicago Bears good.
I'm fully expecting them to trade Justin Fields so they can draft Bryce Young.
And then Bryce Young will be a bust and the Bears strike back.
Yeah, or they fuck it up and they draft Will Levis instead. Just something memey. The Bears are going to do something wrong.
The number 2, which, you could argue maybe should be number 1. But I got to boost my own ego by putting me number 1. You correctly, and I mean dead on, predicted the fate of the Cleveland Browns. So, looking back at the tape, you said that the original NFL offer to Deshaun Watson for a suspension was somewhere between 8 and 10 games. That's what we knew at the time. You said most people want it to be a year, but it's going to be in between those two numbers. So you said it'd be higher than the 8 to 10, but it's not going to be a full year. So you nailed that. Then you said, okay, well, they're going to have Jacoby Brissett. You're going to have a backup, and he's going to be okay, but it's not going to be good enough. And when Deshaun comes back, he'll be rusty. They won't make the playoffs, and they'll end with a 7-10 record. You called their record.
Let's go. Deshaun sucked, though. He wasn't just rusty. He was garbage coming back.
That's true. You didn't quite go as far. But still, this was like the hardest team to predict, given that we didn't know how much their quarterback would play or how well he'd play, and you nailed it.
That's right. I'm fucking, what's his name? Nostradamus?
Nosferatu.
I'm Nosferatu.
You heard it here first, folks. All right, number 1. And we can go to court over this. We can go to war over what the real number 1 is.
Yeah, I'll take you to fucking Judge Judy's courtroom.
I said the San Francisco 49ers would win the Super Bowl. Now, obviously they haven't done that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
No, I know. But listen, that's not the point. That's not the part that was the prediction. When you pushed back on it, you asked me, do you really think Trey Lance can do it? And what I said was, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Give me a rookie. Give me Jimmy G. They're just due no matter what. And what have they done with their third-string rookie quarterback? They've won 10 in a row, and they are set up to go on a Super Bowl run here. I think that's the best prediction any of us made. What do you think?
I agree until they don't go to the Super Bowl.
We'll see. We'll see about that part. But you have to admit, you didn't expect him to do this well, especially given all of the injuries.
I did not, no. I saw them having Trey Lance as their quarterback all year. So, but I mean, yeah, Brock Purdy, came out of nowhere. Mr. Irrelevant, but I mean, he's the 2nd seed right now, so he's got a chance to make some, do some damage in the playoffs. I mean, they are playing Seattle, though.
Go Hawks.
That's an easy ass win.
Speaking of Seahawks, I think it's time to get into our worst predictions. And the
Yeah, these are the ones
Seahawks
I'm more excited.
are definitely a part of this list, but they're not as low as 10. So let's start with number 10. You said that DJ Moore would have his best season. So I looked at the stats. He did have a career high touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And his other career highs, every year he'd have about 4 touchdowns. But he had 888 yards. And the last 3 seasons, he's had over 1,000 in each. So, what's up with that?
I saw Baker and even like Darnold being the backup. I figured, that's more competent, a little bit more over the top quarterback style than like when he's had Teddy Bridgewater or PJ Walker thrown to him. But I forgot that Matt Rule was his head coach, and Matt Rule ruins everything. And it sucked even more because, like, I've known how wrong I've been about this take all season because I drafted DJ Moore in fantasy.
Oof.
Because I like, believed, like, let's throw him a bone.
This is the guy. This is his season.
Yeah. I'm glad that's only at 10, though. That means we fucking really suck at this.
It means we had some really bad takes, including number 9, Brett. We were both really high on Indy. Now, okay. You said that you were a Matty Ice believer, that he was far better than Carson Wentz. I said he was better than Carson Wentz too, okay? So that's not the bad one.
Yeah.
But you said he was very likely going to be better than Phillip Rivers in his last season. So that's pretty bad. But don't feel too bad because I predicted that not only would they go to the playoffs, but they would upset Kansas City in the playoffs. Now, they did upset Kansas City in the regular season.
Yeah, like week, 3?
They have, like, the 4th, 5th overall pick? Yeah, it's bad.
Neither of us expected them to end up having Jeff Saturday as their coach. And also, this is, like, the second straight season of Indy. Like, I'm pretty sure both times we've done this, we both thought Indy, like, had a good shot of doing something. And they've just shat the bed, like, every time.
Don't let me believe in the Colts ever again. I do not want to see that fucking horseshoe for the rest of my life. I am sick of it.
Colts are the new Chargers.
Yeah, they are the new Chargers. At least the Chargers can make the playoffs. We'll talk about that later. But hey, do you think they're just gonna hire Jeff Saturday again? Do you think he's gonna be back?
No fucking way.
You can't, right?
After that game against the Vikings, like, he can't ever show his face in that locker room again.
Number 8. I bullied the Miami Dolphins. I said, quote, I hate the Dolphins. I said Tua sucks and is trash. And they went to the playoffs. Now, my main reason for being upset with the Dolphins is because I thought that they fired a really good coach in Brian Flores and that they would regress. But then they got Tyreek Hill. Tua improved. Mike McDaniel looks like a real head coach. And hey, they're in the playoffs now. So I still think Brian Flores might have a chance at some point, maybe when the litigation is over. And if he ends up being a pretty good coach, this take won't look as bad in retrospect. But I think I got a little ahead of myself on the Dolphins are going to regress train.
There's some people that would agree with you still about Tua, though. There's still some people that think he's garbage.
I just hope he doesn't die, bro. I'm just hoping that he's going to, like, be able to think, and watch MacGruber into his old age.
He's had, 3 concussions? 4?
2 confirmed, 3 that most people think he's had. It's pretty. He's not playing this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, it's Skylar Thompson, right?
Yeah.
That's like when Derek Carr got hurt back in like 2015, 2016, and they had to like start Connor Cook, and just got fucking destroyed.
All right, number 7, Brett. Maybe this needs to be higher, but we have some really bad takes. But Brett, you said Jimmy G is better than Jalen Hurts.
In my defense, last season Jimmy G was better than Jalen Hurts.
That's right. You didn't expect the glow up from Jalen, did you?
I don't think anyone did. Like he literally within like 9 months changed from like a fringe starter that people didn't know like is this gonna be our guy to like an MVP candidate. So I don't feel shame in that one. He shut me up though, like for sure.
Do you want to apologize to him maybe?
Fuck no, fuck Jalen Hurts, dude. I don't give a shit about anything that motherfucker does as long as he's wearing that green.
At number 6, I said that both LA teams would be the number 1 seeds.
The Rams.
Now, at least the Chargers made the dance. At least they're a 5th seed, so that's pretty bad. But the LA Rams, they crashed harder than any other Super Bowl champion in history. And you know what the worst part about this prediction is? Not only did I say they'd get the number 1 seed, I said they had a 1 to 3 year window. They might not even have a coach next year.
Yeah, and their quarterback, his arm is looking pretty dead. I mean, they had to replace him with Baker. That's a good way of putting it, though. Like, the Rams really did, like, come down harder than, like, a coke addict. Like, it's fucking crazy.
What happened? Was it just injuries? And...
Kupp got hurt, Donald, Stafford, like, everybody.
That was the thing about them, too, is that they had no depth. They were all stars, and so three or four big stars goes down. What do you have left? You have a coke-addicted coach that wears really tight-fitting clothing, jumping around, screaming at people. It doesn't mean you're going to win a lot, right?
Do you think he's gone, McVay?
I don't understand why he would be. Unless he's pulling a Sean Payton where he's like, my team sucks. I'm going to go be in the broadcast booth and find another job in a couple of years.
I don't think he'd do the Sean Payton because, like, with Sean Payton, it was kind of really obvious because, like, Drew Brees was retiring. And then, like, he saw, like, Jameis throw and Taysom Hill and was like, nah, I'm fucking out of here.
And then he publicly campaigned for his next job. And fucking what an asshole. But, hey, I'm a hater of Sean Payton, so I am biased.
That's fair. He's had a small little history with your team.
Yeah, and he fucking complains every year that they don't win the Super Bowl and makes the NFL change rules. He ditched his team the second that they were bad and is publicly flirting with every other team on the universe. He's constantly making everything about himself. His mouth looks like a butthole. I mean, there's just countless reasons to not like Sean Payton. That fucking movie that they made of him with Kevin James... I mean, come on, what are we doing?
I don't have to watch it to know it's dog shit. Like, it looks really bad. Also, like, who's the other team that's, like, really flirting with him right now? Like, it's Denver, and who's the other one?
Denver. I know that Arizona and Houston are going to interview him. They're not going to get him. I believe he has stated many times publicly that he wants the Chargers job. So depending on how they do in the playoffs, if they keep Staley or not. And then a lot of people are speculating that if McVay leaves, maybe the Rams.
All of the, like, vacant jobs kind of suck.
That's why they're vacant.
Besides for, like, the Broncos.
That sounds like it's Harbaugh's, maybe. That'd be pretty funny. Him and Russell.
He can bring his brother when he gets fired after he loses in the playoffs this weekend.
Speaking of Denver, my number 5, and this is where it starts to get... This is where it gets really, really bad.
This is only 5?
I said Denver would make the playoffs, dude.
Yeah, I remember.
Now, the reason I have it this low is because I did say that they would sneak in the number 7th seed. And we have some really bad takes coming up. I mean, they forced, like, 5 primetime games in the first, like, 8 weeks of the season. We had to watch the Broncos, and they couldn't score. Like, what happened?
Yeah, the Broncos literally, like, couldn't escape, like, the national spotlight, and then their quarterback, like, became, he was, like, one of the guys from Backyard Football, but, like, the kid that sucks. He was that guy. And, like, every week, he would just keep saying the same thing. He'd just keep going, Broncos country, let's ride.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Do you condone the cyberbullying of Russell Wilson?
Yes, because he's a public figure, you know?
Absolutely.
You can absolutely cyber... Bro, he has, like, what, 8 bathrooms, right? Like, come on now.
I think he deserves more cyberbullying, honestly.
He needs to, next season, stop doing his normal shtick of Russell Wilson. Oh, I'm Russell. I love God and my wife. Broncos country. He just needs to shut the fuck up and play better football. Like, there really is no... Well, okay, maybe Hackett. Maybe Hackett's like an Urban Meyer, where it was just like...
He's the only other coach, other than Urban Meyer, to get fired in their first year before the season was over.
Yeah, that's... I love that it happened, like, back-to-back, too. But I think the Broncos take made sense in the moment. Like, there was a lot of hype for him coming in. And I talked about this to you throughout like this season. Because of that hype, I started hating Broncos fans for a little bit. Like just before the season started, because they were hyping themselves up and Russell Wilson. And then I just felt sorry for them. like as the year kept going on, like at first it was like, haha, you guys were hoping for something good. And then like the Nickelodeon game happened and Patrick Starr.
That was the rock bottom, wasn't it? On Christmas, these people woke up on Christmas to play a team in the LA Rams that have nothing to play for, and they got blown out, and a cartoon starfish was roasting them.
Oh, there's Russ Wilson. Oh, no! Oh, that's called an interception.
That's close. It's
Bobby Wagner. That's not what he wanted to cook.
It's brutal. But I also, honestly, with that defense and like, you know, if Russell Wilson goes back to form, I can see the Broncos rebounding if they get a good coach like Peyton or maybe even Harbaugh in there.
All right. Number 4, Brett. You said that Mahomes would take a step back after losing Tyreek Hill, and he's about to win his second MVP.
Yeah, I thought Juju and fucking Packer reject weren't gonna have like I figured they'd like be fine, but I didn't think they'd put up like actually like solid numbers. I figured he would just have to like dump it to Kelsey. I still thought he'd have a good year though.
The only reason I put it this high up is because he is the MVP, like undisputed. He's going to win the MVP. So to say he takes a step back and then have him go that far, that's the only reason it's this high.
That's not true. He's not gonna win MVP. Jalen Hurts is going to win MVP.
All right. So number 3.
So that's what all the Eagles fans told me.
So number 3, you said that the Green Bay Packers would go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That's my favorite hot take I've ever had. This is like my Skip Bayless moment. Or like just the other day, Stephen A. Smith said TCU was going to win.
Yeah.
I was never fully confident in the Packers, but I picked them because I just figured I felt like some bullshit was going to happen this season before it started. And seeing the Packers, I didn't think Minnesota was going to... I figured you guys would make the playoffs, but I didn't think you'd be, like, you know, as good record-wise as they have been. And I figured the Lions would be, like, better, but not, like, a 9-win season. So I figured the Packers had another easy dub into the, division, into the playoffs. And I figured Aaron Rodgers would bullshit his way to at least another NFC Championship game. And this time around, it was going to become, he was going to win this time. And it was going to be all dumb and awful. But also, I just wanted to get them in the Super Bowl to have them lose to Buffalo.
Okay, number 2. I said, oh boy. I said the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants, would get the number 1 overall pick. And they have a chance to eliminate my Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs. What happened? You were pretty low on the Giants too. What happened? What didn't we see?
I mean, Brian Daboll's just a really good coach, it looks like. But, Saquon came back to form. Daniel Jones started playing I'm not gonna say he's super great, but he's like solid now instead of trash. They still don't have any wideouts though, which is kind of crazy. Like Kenny Galladay finally caught a touchdown pass in like the last minutes of the game Sunday. But it's that defense is really good. They have a lot of like solid younger pieces, along with like Dexter Lawrence. What's his name? Thibodeau.
It definitely feels like Dable is bringing a less than great roster into a great situation. And I get that they're not winning their division. I get that they're probably not winning a Super Bowl. But man, he is elevating a limited roster such an incredible degree. You would never expect that from a rookie head coach. And just props to him for doing that. And they did not get the number 1 overall pick, so I was dead wrong on that. Let's move to the number 1. We owe Seattle an apology, Brett. We owe them, like, multiple apologies.
Damn it, not the Sea Chickens.
So, man, where to start with the Seahawks? We both had them picking top 10, which they are, but with the Broncos pick. We both shamed them, scolded them even, for having the audacity to tell us that Russell Wilson was part of the problem. I said that the ownership was inept because they chose Pete Carroll and John Schneider over Russell Wilson. You said that you were pissed off at Seattle radio for being excited about the Geno Smith, Drew Lock controversy. And then I piggyback on that to say, you really think you're going to get rid of Russell Wilson and have a better season quarterback-wise? Give me a fucking break. What is wrong with us?
See, like, Seattle really was, like, seen as, like, a 4-12 team, though. And, like, they've had such a good rookie class. It's crazy. And then, like, Geno just fucking, like, came out of nowhere, really. Like, this dude's been in the league since, like, 2013. Hasn't shown anything till this year. And he made the Pro Bowl. Like, he's been really good. The defense is solid. They were really, like, hot at the beginning of the year, but they cooled off at the end. But definitely way better than some fucking, like, I think I had them going 3-13 or 3-14.
Well, and if you look at Wilson, he struggled earlier in the year, and then they've been playing a little bit better recently. And they asked us why are you guys doing better now? And he's saying, well, we're focusing on running the ball first and doing play action. Or he said something along those lines of they're running the ball a lot more and they're keeping a more balanced offense. Well, if you recall, that's exactly what he got pissed off at Pete Carroll for doing and why he demanded a trade. So obviously Pete Carroll's a good coach. He's gotten a bunch of rookies to make the playoffs. He's been able to make Geno Smith into a star. The GM, who I said sucked and that you should choose Russell Wilson over, has drafted his best draft since the Legion of Boom. So he has an incredible draft. So that part's wrong. And then Geno Smith outperforms Wilson. So, I mean, every part of our rant and our victory lap around the 12s in Seattle is dead wrong. And you know what? They're so set up for the future because they have a top 10 pick from the Broncos. They have the Broncos' second-round pick, and they have, I believe, the same thing next year, first and second. So the Seahawks look like they're going to be pretty good for a while.
That's what I was going to say, is that Russell Wilson trade, as of right now, is like the biggest fleece since the DeAndre Hopkins trade, probably.
Yeah.
And that's an even, like, I mean, it depends on who Seattle drafts, obviously, and if Russell Wilson never, like, rebounds, but yikes, that's just embarrassing for the Broncos. Hats off to Seattle. You're still going to lose in the first round, but you had a good season.
And embarrassing for us as well. So I want to move into this. What are your biggest surprises this year? We've touched on some earlier. Do you have anything in specific that is like, this is something that came out of nowhere?
Yeah, I got a couple. They're just like side notes about the season. Somehow the Titans had like over 90 guys injured again or some like crazy number like that.
Yep.
For the second year in a row.
Yep.
Like, what are the odds of that happening?
Mm-hmm.
I think they literally, like, they broke the record last year, and then they either broke it again or now they're in second place in back-to-back seasons.
It's insane.
I definitely didn't expect the Bucks to be as bad as they were.
Yeah, they fell off hardcore.
Yeah, like, not even just the team, but, like, specifically Brady. Like, he looks not immortal for once.
Yeah.
Even though everyone keeps sucking his dick. Because it's, oh, he's the GOAT. Oh, Tom Brady.
I was pretty surprised that Baker was such a dud in Carolina. I didn't even say he was great, but I mean, he wasn't even starting over Darnold after a few games. And then he gets traded over to LA and has a few pretty decent games. I mean, obviously he has a ceiling. But I was shocked that he couldn't get anything going in Carolina.
I was surprised that J.J. Watt had, like, that season that he did. Like, he hasn't done anything the past couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And in his final season, he put up 12 sacks and no one was talking about it.
Yeah, he definitely flew under the radar with that one, and now he's retiring.
Which is weird to say about someone that's been, like, a for sure Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
Since, like, 2018.
Yeah. I have to shout out Detroit. I thought they'd improve.
Yes.
I didn't think that they would be, one half. If they played one half better against Seattle, they would have gone to the playoffs. I mean, I didn't expect that at all. Dan Campbell looks like a great coach. He really does. But their offensive coordinator is a star. He is coming up with some of the best play designs. You have no idea what's coming. The Lions, man, you think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with here in the next few years?
I do. In last video, we shouted out Jared Goff's girlfriend.
Yeah.
This video, I will shout out Jared Goff because he had a really good season.
He did.
Like,
he really did.
I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
He's always been Jared Goof.
Mm-hmm.
Jack and Goff right now, right?
Another surprise, Atlanta Falcons. They had the exact same record as they did last year, despite paying Matty Ice $40 million to leave. I didn't expect that. I thought that they would, regress a little bit, but they had the same record, 7-10 each year.
Do you think Arthur Smith is a good coach because he's getting to 7-10 with obviously tanking teams?
I do.
Because the Falcons are clearly maybe not tanking in the same way the Texans are, right? But if Marcus Mariota is your starting quarterback, you're clearly not trying to compete. Seriously.
Absolutely. I think that he's shown that he at least deserves a full rebuild under his watch. It's hard to judge a coach after 1 or 2 years, but he's definitely earned that he fits the part.
Oh, Kyle Pitts. What the fuck happened to Kyle Pitts on that team? I had to cut him by week 5 in fantasy, dude. I had a bad fantasy draft this year.
Yeah? You want to talk about it?
No, because, somehow we both lost in that league. Shout out. No, I'm not going to shout you guys out.
Yeah, fuck
you.
those guys. You know who you are, the people that we had a fantasy league with.
And if you're listening to this podcast and made it all the way through, you'll know that we're specifically talking about you.
Yep.
Guys.
Oh, I'm going to go to Wenatchee. Look at me. Play Osu. Ooh. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm going to bring my Osu.
I'm going to bring Osu to Wenatchee. All right. Let's move on. Already.
Hold on. I got
more?
one last one.
You got more?
Yeah, I have another one. John Harbaugh and Greg Roman. Specifically John Harbaugh. Holy shit. This guy has been no one's ever called him one of the best coaches in the league. But, the guy's won a Super Bowl. But this season, I think he's going to get fired, dude.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's made a lot of bad decisions. That whole Ravens squad looks I don't know, dude. They look flat, And I know Lamar's out. But even when Lamar was in for the last couple games he played, he did not look too good.
Here's my question. Do we even know if Lamar is playing this upcoming week? He is playing?
Believe. Yeah, I think they just confirmed it today. Or he's on track, right?
Okay. So, if you're the Ravens and you're thinking that you want to fire him, if you exit this first round, obviously you're going to be able to talk with Peyton and whoever, like all of the number one guys that everyone's talking about. If you win a playoff game or you win 2 playoff games, it feels like some of those coaches aren't going to be there anymore. Are they going to be stuck with Harbaugh because they might not be able to go out and get that replacement?
I think Joey Burr will help him out with deciding that one.
Okay, well, let's move on. We're going to hand out some awards, I mean, the NFL does their own awards and stuff, but we're going to do our version.
They do fake awards, dude. They just do what ESPN writers tell them, and they put it in the fucking bucket and they pull it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fact. Look it up. A lot of people are saying it. So we're gonna go through some different awards, and we're gonna give you who our 3 finalists are, and we're gonna pick a winner out of that. So without further ado, let's go to MVP. Who do you got as your 3 finalists? I'll tell you my 3, and then we'll pick our winners.
Okay, so my 3 finalists are all quarterbacks from the AFC conference. Honorable mention to Jalen Hurts. I didn't pick you because I hate your team. I'm biased. But I have Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, Josh Allen of the Bills, and the best player in football, Patrick Mahomes. Do you want me to say my pick?
I'll give you my 3 finalists, and you can tell me why
I'm
wrong. I got Patty Mahomes, I got Joe Burrow, and I got Justin Jefferson.
I heard that, and I thought Fields.
Oh no!
When you said Justin,
No. I just thought like Jefferson. I like to shout out non-quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And he's obviously not going to win this. We all know who's going to win this award. But let's put him in as 3. He's not actually gonna win it, but let's just give him a shout out.
Yeah, I think Kupp should have won MVP last year.
Yeah, I agree.
But I have Patrick Mahomes winning this, and I looked back on it today. He's been a starter for 5 seasons, right? Like full time. And the Chiefs have been the number 1 seed 3 out of the 5 times so far. That's a crazy stat. Like that just shows how dominant he is, and the Chiefs have been since really 2016. Because even Alex Smith had a couple good years with them.
He's never had to go on the road for the playoffs. That tells you how good they are.
Yeah, he's fucking insane. Josh Allen, really good season. But Buffalo, they kind of had some low points or some weird ones. And same with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow really had a really slow start, so I didn't really give it to him. To be fair to him though, I think I looked it up, a third of all of his picks were literally just in week 1 against Pittsburgh, where he had that really bad game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Mahomes is just on a different planet. Led the league in touchdowns and yards, so.
For sure. I also picked Patty Mahomes. He is the best player in football. He will probably be the best player in football for the next decade. He had Tyreek Hill taken away from him, and he is throwing it to everybody on the field. It doesn't matter. There's no way he doesn't win the MVP unless he dies. So,
unless he dies.
Yeah, and even then they might, win it, and then Jackson can come up and do a TikTok dance and to celebrate
on his brother's fucking corpse, dude. Jackson Mahomes.
Yeah. So now let's move on to Coach of the Year.
This one I want us to do in order of our nominees. Do you have them ordered, or you just have nominees?
I have them ordered.
I want to hear your order 3 to 1, because I think I want to see if ours differ at all. Coach of the Year.
Number 3.
There's a lot of options this year.
Number 3, Pete Carroll. Number 2, Brian Dable. And my number 1, the winner, Doug Peterson.
Oh, God fucking damn it.
What did you say?
That's not my winner, but that's the 3 I had nominated.
Okay, so you have them in a different order.
I do. Honorable mention Dan Campbell. They went from 1-6 to 9-8. That's impressive. I have Carroll 3 as well. 2, I have Peterson. 1, I have Dable.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, to me, Coach of the Year is what do you have and what do you do with it? And I think all 3 of those had a limited roster, not a lot going for them going into the season, and they all succeeded and brought their teams to the playoffs. Personally, I'm going to say the guy who had the team with the number 1 overall pick, getting them to the playoffs is the most impressive.
The only reason I chose Dable over Peterson is that the Giants were a more consistently, I guess, competitive team. Like Jacksonville kind of lucked into their playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to like dismiss what they did, but I mean,
They had
if Tennessee did not fall the way they did, they would not have made the playoffs.
True.
But I do think Peterson's doing a really good job there.
Okay.
Especially for the development of Lawrence, because they could have really just screwed up like their top draft pick of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, just with the hype that Lawrence has had.
Yeah.
And Carroll, we talked about the Seahawks.
Yeah, good job, Pete. Riding the scooter and shit. So, offensive player of the year. Who do you got?
All right, my 3 nominees, I have Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns, running back. I have of the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson. And I have of the Las Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs.
Wow. Okay. Running back heavy. So, I got
2 running backs, yeah.
I got Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, and Christian McCaffrey. Who's your winner?
Justin Jefferson. I mean, for a bit, there was talk that he was going to break Calvin Johnson's record. He's clearly the best offensive player on that team, and for most of the games, like, on the other team as well. And, I mean, ever since he's been drafted, he's, like, clearly been probably... I don't know if he's the best wideout. Well, actually, I'd say right now he's the best wideout. Maybe not. It's either him or Adams, right? It's a toss-up. But if you like compare him to his peers, like that draft class is a really good one.
Yeah.
And he's like, and CeeDee Lamb is like a really good wideout too.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at Justin Jefferson's numbers, you would think he's like a scrub. You would think like Brandon Ayuk sucks, just because of like how impressive Jefferson is. It also helps that Kirk like throwing him the ball.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And Kirk's a god.
We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I also have Justin Jefferson as my offensive player of the year. I'm very biased. I watch this guy every Sunday, and what a joy it's been to watch. We have won 13 games this year, and without him, we would win a significantly fewer amount of games. Let me just put it that way. I'd like to say that I think Tyreek Hill was right up there with Justin, and because he had a situation where his quarterback was constantly revolving with all the Tua injuries, I thought I'd throw him up here as a nominee because he was just as good as Justin Jefferson numbers-wise most of the year. I don't know where they ended up, but I think he's a great wide receiver. And if I'm going to put Justin up there, I should also mention Tyreek Hill. And then McCaffrey, I mean, this was a guy who everyone knew was really good, but, he played in Carolina and he always got hurt, and he's just been so good transitioning to the 49ers. I had to shout him out. But Justin Jefferson, he's the man. It's a really weird feeling when we have like a 3rd or 4th and like 15, and you're like, I think we're going to figure this out. And then somehow Justin Jefferson comes up with the ball. You saw the one where he strips a would-be interception from a Bills player on 4th and 18, and the Vikings end up winning that game. I mean, it's highlight catch after highlight catch, and he does have his games where he melts down against the Packers. He couldn't get the ball, but that whole game, it was a meltdown for moment one. But consistently speaking, like Justin Jefferson I think he's the best receiver in the NFL right now, this moment, and I think he'll be up in the top 5 for the next while.
I have issue with you picking McCaffrey over Josh Jacobs.
Tell me about it.
Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing. He led all running backs in all-purpose yards, which includes rushing, receiving. I believe he was top 5 in rushing touchdowns. He averaged 4.9 a carry and had the second most carries, only behind Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a better season overall than McCaffrey and Chubb.
Yeah.
I think McCaffrey just got it because of name rec, because you're a casual.
Well, I'll tell you what. Nobody traded for Josh Jacobs. And it's not like Derek fucking Carr could do anything this season, so it's not like they had any other option than to turn and hand off to Josh Jacobs. But
Oh, they had Devontae.
they had Devontae, but the dude throwing it to him couldn't figure it out. They had to bench him with 2 games to go for Jarrett Stidham.
Jarrett Stidham lit up the Niners
Jarrett Stidham,
for a game.
future NFL MVP, according to Brett.
After seeing how he looked against Kansas City, he's kind of fucking raw, dude. I remember when Jarrett Stidham was he was like Brady's successor, 2.0.
They were calling him Studham.
Yeah. Well, 3.0. Didn't they say Brissett was gonna be really good too when he was like Brady's backup once Jimmy G got hurt?
Jimmy G, Brissett, Studham. I mean, just gods. Defensive Player of the Year.
All right. My 3 nominees are going to be, they're all edge rushers. I know a lot of people are going to be unhappy to hear that due to the recent love that they keep getting. But my 3 are Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Really good season. Wasn't really talked about as much just because the Browns were so irrelevant this year. But I mean, Myles Garrett has been he's been worth that first overall pick. Those since 2017,
Mm-hmm.
I think got picked.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have this is my homer pick, Micah Parsons. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was it was really him and the other guy who's on my list for the main 2 guys they were talking about for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
But Micah kind of slowed down the last month there. But, I mean, even when he's not putting up stats, he's clearly he's just he has a lot of effort and drive when you watch him play a game that just pops out that I can't say I've seen from a lot of other players.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, even though he had, not the best December, he still put up really good stats. And, he definitely impacts a game. Just, he'll make linemen just fucking instantly flinch when he lines up against them.
Mm-hmm.
But he did not have as good of a season as the San Francisco 49ers' Nick Bosa. That is my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. Led the league in sacks. I believe forced fumbles as well. I could be wrong about that, though. This dude is crazy. Nick Bosa is really good. His brother's really good. It just runs in the family, I guess. Also, huge MAGA head.
Yep.
Nick Bosa.
Yep.
So I love talking about him.
So I got
Because I'm a big Trumpy.
I
love Trump. I don't love Trump. Or do I?
I got two of your 3. I'll go bottom to top. I put Sauce Gardner in this because I think that he deserves a shout out. He was an absolute lockdown corner for a rookie. Hey, I like Myles Garrett too. I do, and he had a great season. But I just think that I like to have a little variety, and I wanted to shout out the best corner in the NFL and a rookie. He didn't win it though. He wouldn't have. He's not winning my Defensive Player of the Year. Number 2, I have Micah Parsons, and number 1, I have Nick Bosa for all the reasons that you said. He's just really good, and the Niners, man, the Niners have won 10 straight, and he's a big reason for that.
How did we not make a Myles Garrett helmet joke?
We're growing as people. We're more emotionally mature. We're growing. We're growing.
I'll have to keep it in mind for the next pod.
Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Okay, I think this is everyone's top 3. I have Chris Olave for the New Orleans Saints, Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets, and Kenneth Walker III for the Seattle Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
My Rookie of the Year is going to be Kenneth Walker III.
Okay.
He's brought a really good rushing impact. He's also the only one that's, it does help that he's the only player that's going to be in the playoffs, but emergence has clearly helped the Hawks, helped Geno, put up 1,000 yards. I think he had 9 touchdowns, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a really good average too. So I'm going to give it to him. I do like Garrett Wilson a lot as well as Olave, but I don't know. I just looked at him and I was like, fuck it, I'll give it to the Hawk.
Okay.
Go Hawks.
So Olave is really good. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but you have to admit that a third stringer, Mr. Irrelevant, coming off the bench and having such a predominant role in a great season, Brock Purdy deserves not to win it, but to be mentioned. So my number 3 is going to be Brock Purdy. Then we have number 2, Kenneth Walker. For all the reasons that you said, he's great. He's been so good, especially for a rookie up in Seattle. I got to give my number 1 to Garrett Wilson. You know, I really think that this pod has shown me that you value the running back position more than I do, and I probably overvalue the wide receiver position. But I mean, Garrett Wilson was a star. He had a revolving door of people throwing him the football between Joe Flacco, Mike White, Zach Wilson, the MILF Hunter.
The MILF legend.
So I just really think that Garrett Wilson did such a great job. So he is my offensive rookie of the year.
The reason I didn't put Purdy on my list is he only played 6 games, so I didn't want to put him on my list.
He did only play 6 games.
Well, start 6 games.
Defensive rookie of the year.
Okay, for me, I have 2 corners on this list. Previously mentioned Sauce Gardner, and another Seahawk, Tariq Woolen. He was like a later round pick, and he just came out of nowhere for him. And lastly, I have who I thought should have been the number 1 pick in the draft this year, Aiden Hutchinson of the Detroit Lions. No disrespect to Trayvon Walker, but I mean, Hutchinson, he was the number 1 projected pick, and he showed it this year. Like 9 sacks, 3 picks for like a defensive lineman. It's pretty good. But it's Sauce. The winner is going to be Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
There's a reason people are saying he's Revis 2.0, right? Like, he's just shut down already. Like, the moment he came into the league, which is really hard. Like, the corner position's probably the hardest in football, besides for quarterback. Just because, like, all these rules are against you. I mean, literally, quarterbacks now will just try and get you to, like, do some pass interference. Because they just know, like, the NFL is really pushing for stuff like that. And, I mean, I haven't looked at his stats. I'm not a PFF fucking loser like that. But just like the eye test, like, he's so good at coverage.
No one will throw in his area, and he's a rookie. It's ridiculous. So my 3 are Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson, and then number 1 Sauce Gardner. Let me just shout out, Thibodeau's been really good. He's been quite the difference maker on the Giants. Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, he's a star. I echo what you said of why on earth didn't Jacksonville pick him. He was a Heisman candidate for a reason, but I am glad that they passed on him because seeing him in his hometown in Detroit is really special. But Sauce Gardner's winning, and and he's probably going to be the best corner in the league for a while. I didn't prepare for this one, and I didn't tell you to prepare for this one. But do you have a quick comeback player of the year? Because I think Trevor Lawrence deserves it.
Yeah, I think you can go Trevor Lawrence. You can go Saquon. You can go McCaffrey.
Geno Smith, of course.
I'm gonna also give J.J. Watt. But I agree with you on Trevor Lawrence.
He had such adversity his first season. Just something that none of us could really truly understand. And the fact that he could come back and be so good despite having such a tremendous tragedy happen to him, it's so impressive.
I think they're not gonna even like nominate him though,
which is weird.
Just because he's like a younger guy.
It's just weird because it's like, man, like, I get that Geno Smith hasn't played for so many years. I get that McCaffrey has had so many injuries. I get it. But can we really compare those to the tragedy that Trevor Lawrence went through?
No. Trevor Lawrence, like, I hope he went to therapy, like, before the season. Urban Meyer is that bad, and I think it's going to just be, I guess, like, the icing on top of everything if Trevor Lawrence actually won, like, comeback player of the year. The only thing funnier would be if the Jaguars actually, like, won the Super Bowl the moment he left.
All right, so let's get into the playoffs.
Jamora. Playoffs.
Playoffs.
You want to talk about playoffs, you fucker?
And we're going to do it by seed. So we're going to go 7, 7, 6, 6, 5, 5, etc.
Gotcha.
We're going to talk team by team, and then maybe we'll get into the bracket after that. So, number 7 seed on the AFC is the Miami Dolphins. So they went 9-8. I predicted 6-11. You predicted 10-7. What do you think? What do you think about Miami? What are their chances of winning the Super Bowl? And then what else do you want to touch on when we talk about the Miami Dolphins?
The Dolphins have a 0% chance of winning the Super Bowl. No disrespect to Skylar Thompson, but you're not going to cut it in the playoffs. The Dolphins have already been limping in with that defense. Tyreek, I think, just got hurt last week. And Waddle. Waddle got hurt a week or two ago as well. I don't know if he returned to that game or not. But like Tua is probably, Tua's out. He's not going to play. You're really focusing on his health, really. Like, the playoff is nice. The playoff game is nice. I believe it's their first one since Tannehill was their quarterback last. I think 2016, maybe. So it's always nice to, make it back to the playoffs. But I don't see it. They're going up against a favorite in the entire, both conferences to win the Super Bowl. I think they just build on what they did this season and just try and, run it back, get Tua healthy. But there's reports that they might fire McDaniel because of that losing streak they went on.
If they fire Mike McDaniel, I mean, you saw how angry I got when they fired a good coach that they had. If they fire McDaniel after making the playoffs with everything that happened, I'm going to go goblin mode. I'm going to go absolutely feral. Look, Miami had a good season, and I think that there's a lot of reasons to be happy. You should keep Mike McDaniel. You should keep Tua around. You have something going good right now. Build on it, and, after next season, if you take a step back, then you can maybe consider making some moves. But Mike McDaniel did everything right. Tua did everything right. It's not his fault that he got hurt, and I think you have to run it back. As for their chances to win the Super Bowl, there's no shot in hell. I mean, Skylar Thompson against they're playing the Bills. Yeah, there's no fucking way. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the success they've had this year. They did a good job. They proved haters like me wrong, and I think they should be very proud to be in the playoffs, especially given their circumstances.
And Tyreek, he signed that extension with them, right? So they're going to have their key players for a while. Tua's still going to be, he's still on the rookie deal. Waddle's still on the rookie deal. This is the moment you want to try and make as much noise as possible before you have to start signing everybody long-term or deciding who you're going to cut, who you're going to trade.
All right, so number 7 in the NFC is the Seattle Seahawks. We've talked about them quite a bit already, so we might have a limited conversation here. They went 9-8. I said they'd go 5-12. Brett, you said they'd go 3-14. They're in the playoffs. Do they have a shot?
There's 14 teams in the playoffs. I would say they have the 12th most likely.
Okay.
So not a good chance. Nothing to do with the team, really. It's just who they're matched up against. They're going to go up against San Francisco in round 1. No one really knows what Geno is going to do in the playoffs. They're just not a very convincing team when you look at everyone else. Even comparing them to Jacksonville, I would say Jacksonville is a much better team than them.
Okay, I have a question, though. They're going up against San Francisco for the 3rd time this year. They're a division opponent. Division games get weird, Brett. They get weird. Is there any way that they go into Santa Clara and upset the red hot 49ers?
See, I think that their Super Bowl chances are low, but an upset, I think, could happen, honestly.
I could see it.
I'm not going to bet money on it, but Brock Purdy is due a bad game.
I agree.
He's just due one. He's a rookie. I don't care about the Shanahan system. You all can suck his dick off as much as you want. But like, there's a track record with rookie quarterbacks. They don't go to the Super Bowl because they have a bad game eventually.
So now we'll go down to the number 6 seeds. So in the AFC, we have Baltimore. We've talked a little bit about them.
Man, fuck Baltimore.
They went 10-7. I said they'd go 12-5, and I thought that was bad until I realized you said they'd go 13-4. A lot of that had to do with injuries. Lamar, what is happening with him?
Man, fuck Lamar.
What do you think? What do you think Baltimore? What do you think their chances are?
So if Lamar is playing in the playoffs, I think I could see them making a conference appearance. Yeah, if Baltimore has the potential, that's the thing, right? Like, if they weren't injured to shit, like, they don't have J.K. Dobbins. We don't know if Lamar is going to be there. They still don't have any real good wide receivers. Literally, like, how do they keep doing this? Like, do you want your best wideout to be Hollywood Brown? I think Mark Andrews was also not playing for a bit. I keep doing this thing with Lamar where I'm low on him, then I'm high on him, right? First time we did this, I was low, then I was high. I'm back to low, dude.
The pendulum has swung back.
He just can't throw the football effectively enough, or at least as efficiently as I would want from my quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said with Harbaugh earlier, I just don't really see the Ravens as like a serious threat, really.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them being like a sneaky dark horse, maybe, if Lamar and J.K. Dobbins and all of them comes back. They're really injured. And Greg Roman, oh my God. That dude has to get fired.
He's got to be gone. Okay, so our number 6 in the NFC is the New York Football Giants. We both had them going 3-14. They ended up 9-7-1. What chance does the New York Giants have at a Super Bowl parade?
So I don't see a Super Bowl thing happening. Dable's a first-year head coach. I don't think Daniel Jones is a very convincing quarterback, and he's gonna have to go up against the for him to make it to the Super Bowl. Like, he'd have to go up against the Niners defense, Phillies defense, even the Cowboys defense when they're playing up to it. I don't think you can put the ball in Daniel Jones' hand and be like, okay, win us this game. But with that being said, they're kind of like the Seahawks, where I could see them upsetting the Vikings this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, it would not surprise me at all. They're a really scrappy team. They clearly like to play for Dable. And the only thing that really is like a blemish is that it's like a really weak roster that's playing way past their ceiling right now.
Yeah, for sure. They're sort of like they're that team that is just happy to be there and has nothing to lose. And that's not saying that they're not scary. They are scary because they are just a team that's going to come in and they say, we have nothing to lose. We are going to do trick plays. We are going to go for it. They're just going to – I have no idea what's going to happen on Sunday. I literally have no clue what's going to happen on Sunday. But this is a team that, you don't really want to face. You don't really want to face the New York Giants. I don't think that they can win 4 playoff games. I don't think they can win 3. It's unlikely they win 2, but I think there's a very, very good chance that they at least beat the Vikings. And after that, they even have a shot at upsetting, if they go and play the Eagles. That's a division opponent. So, don't doubt what the New York Giants can do in this playoffs. I don't think it's Super Bowl. I don't think it's NFC Championship, but they can make some damage and take out some good teams here. So number 5, we're going to the AFC again. The Los Angeles Chargers. I said they'd go 13-4 and get the number 1 seed. Brett, you said they'd go 11-6. You were a little closer. They were 10-7.
Man, why are we high on the Chargers and the Colts every fucking time?
It's a problem. It's a problem.
The Chargers. So, like I said, I've been high on the Chargers past couple seasons here, but there is a game that was played last Sunday against the locale Denver Broncos, in which Chargers head coach Brandon Staley thought it was gonna be just like a perfect meme to have his starters play before the playoffs, which resulted in some players getting hurt. You might know this guy. His name is was it Keenan Allen or Mike Williams that got
It was
hurt?
Williams.
What a fucking moron. Why did he do that? You have nothing to play for. I get wanting to give the starters like a rep or two,
Yeah.
but why are you like having them out there to play like the game? That's what pissed me off about the Cowboys game last week.
Yeah.
Fuck the Chargers. I'm done with them. I'm done with the Chargers. I like Herbie. Khalil Mack's cool.
Clearly they have the talent, but it feels like they're constantly being held back. They're a really frustrating team. I would say if I had to pick an AFC team to be my favorite, the Chargers would be up there. They'd be one of those teams that I really like. Herbie's really fun to watch. They've got a lot of defensive talent. Obviously, they have some receivers. Eckler's pretty good. So I like the Chargers a lot, but it just feels like they have a head coach that holds them back, and it's really worrying. So as for their Super Bowl odds, it's tough, man. I mean, the talent's there. The talent could absolutely win you a Super Bowl, but it feels like they always underachieve, and it's impossible to ignore that going into the postseason. So I think they can make some noise. I think they can win some playoff games. But I'm also not going to be shocked if they weirdly stutter on offense. Herbie checks it down too much, and all of a sudden we're looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars advancing. I wouldn't be surprised with that either.
How poetic would it be if the Chargers lose on one of Staley's numerous like fourth down, I need to go for
You'd
it
have to get rid of him, wouldn't you?
addiction? Like it's like Adderall for this guy, dude. He cannot stop going for it on fourth down.
You'd have to get rid of him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, a mistake that big, yeah. And then you bring in Sean Payton.
Especially if Peyton is begging you for the job, you might as well, right? If Staley is the one who ruins this.
I think the Chargers should already have an offensive-minded coach.
Yeah, why
like the
wouldn't
Chargers' defense isn't bad, but that's Staley's thing, right? Defense.
Yeah.
Hasn't really shown.
Exactly. Well, and it's like this whole philosophy, right, where they're like run defense is trash, but then they're like pass defense is better. And he's like, well, the point is that you don't give up big plays. You don't care about small plays. It's like, okay, great. Let's just gash you with the run and control the clock. So yeah, your analytics are awesome until a coach that's smart and can come up with a game plan where they completely control the game runs the ball all over you. Okay, how are your fucking analytics now, clown? You know, so like, and I liked Staley. I really liked Staley.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be good. But man, you can't just say the computer told me to about everything. There has to be some football brains in there, and the dude just has no fucking clue what's going on. So I'm pretty, like, I always am in on the Chargers, and they always disappoint me. And yeah, but enough with my angst. I think it's time for you to have some angst here, because we're going to be talking about the 5th seed in the NFC, and that is your Dallas Cowboys. I said that they'd go 8-9 and miss the playoffs. You were upset with me, and you said that you guys would go 11-6, and you were far closer to being correct. They went 12-5. They only didn't win the division because Philly had a great year. Why don't I just set down my microphone and let you go off about the Dallas Cowboys and their chances to win a Super Bowl?
Oh, there's so many things to say about the fucking Dallas Cowboys. Alright, this pathetic fucking excuse for a franchise is coming into the playoffs once again as having to play in the wild card round. This time we're going to be on the road. And there's a fun little stat for you stat heads. The Cowboys have not won a road playoff game since it was still the 20th century. So things are looking up on that end. Rain Dakota Prescott, what fucking happened to you? He cannot stop throwing picks. The one thing about Dak that was always really solid was he was not known for throwing a lot of interceptions. That has completely vanished. And it's been literally every game. Like, he, I believe, is on a 9-game streak of it. Kellen Moore, the offensive genius, as I call him. Yeah, they put up a lot of points, which is good, but You can't just keep running up the middle on 1st and 10 if it doesn't work. We saw a lot of that last week in Washington, and that's been the game plan for most of the year. And by the time it became December, it wasn't working anymore, and they haven't truly adapted to that yet. The defense has also gone kind of soft, or just not the same, like, explosive, especially that pass rush. The pass rush was really good the first couple months of the season. I'm not too worried about that, though. It's more of, I guess, the pressure, because whenever the Cowboys are put into a spot where they need to come up big, they find a way to fuck it up, or they find a way to let the other team take it from within their reach. And they are going up against Tom Brady, so for an entire week, I am going to have to hear about how the GOAT can shock everybody against the Cowboys. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I can make a full episode on this alone, so let me cut to their Super Bowl chances. The Cowboys are a very boom or bust team. It's very hit or miss with them. When everything is clicking, they have the games like they had against Minnesota or Indianapolis, where they look like a legit powerhouse team. The Bears game, for example. But when it's only one side of the ball that's playing up to potential, that's where you don't feel as comfortable with them as a team. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm a homer, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas was able to at least make the conference championship game. That'd be asking a lot out of them. They're pathetic fucking team. But the Cowboys are cursed, and they will be cursed until Jerry Jones either puts Jimmy Johnson into the Ring of Honor or until he slowly, unfortunately, passes away.
So Coach Clappy, just to piss you off more, Coach Clappy had a point.
We're going to talk about the clap
I'm
now?
talking about Coach Clapp. So he says that your defense isn't that great, but it is really fast, and their speed is a really important part of your defense. And he said when Dallas plays at home or on turf, they play really well. They play fast. But when they play on grass, that's when they start to fail. Look at Philadelphia. Look at, I don't know who you guys have played this year. But what do you think about that? Do you think that your team is allergic to grass?
Coach Clapp was the coach who decided who do I want as my defensive coordinator? How about fucking Rob Ryan? Let me bring in Rob Ryan as my DC. How'd that work for you, Jason? Not very well. It's funny to ever hear Coach Clapp say anything about the Cowboys now that he's gone, because he wants to be a homer, but he also doesn't want to be seen as biased, right?
Yeah.
People give Troy Aikman a lot of flack for it, but I've seen it much more out of Jason Garrett this year. But also his point doesn't make a lot of sense, because the defense didn't lose that game against Philadelphia. I'd have to go back and see. I don't know if Jacksonville's turf is grass or not, right? But that was a game the defense blew. I'd have to look back at like individual games, but it's funny for Jason Garrett to say that, but there is some truth to it. Like, the reason why the defense was working so well is because we did have a lot of like speedy pass rushers, like Sam Williams, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence was playing like his younger self again. But we're also really hurt in the secondary now. And I'm not too super worried about that with Brady, but once you start getting into the second wave of teams, like especially if we're up against Philly, that's going to worry me. So
I'm going to keep it real with you, Brett. I think this is the best chance the Cowboys have for a while at going to a Super Bowl, or at least going to an NFC Championship. I mean, the team is put together enough where if you're clicking on all cylinders, if everybody is playing well, you have the talent to go as far as you want to.
Yeah.
And the NFC is so depleted right now that, I mean, you're playing against the Bucks, you're playing against Tom Brady, but you're not playing against the scariest Tom Brady team that you could be. If you win, you might be going to play the Eagles. And the Eagles you've played before and you've beat before. In the first game, you might have even won if Dak was playing. You might play the Niners, who, they're a scary team and they're always tough. But again, like you said, rookie quarterback. Could that fast defense figure it out against them? Or you play the Giants or the Vikings, who you've beat this year. Like, I feel like this is the chance for the Cowboys. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of that's like the on paper takeaway from it. But from, seeing all the Cowboys games I feel like I'm haunted by the ghost of Cowboys games past, dude. I'll say this. They have a good shot of going deeper than they did last year and 2018 as well. That being said, I will not be surprised if Monday night they get embarrassed by Tampa Bay.
Speaking of embarrassing, let's talk about Jacksonville. They went 9-8, and we talked about them a little bit before. I said they'd go 5-12. You said they go 4-13. They won in the last moments because their defense was playing against Josh Dobbs, which is a real name. It's a real person in Tennessee. What do you think about Jacksonville? What do you think about their chances in the playoffs to win a game, to win a couple games, to win the Super Bowl? What do you think?
I don't have their exact record, but they literally did they did the same thing with the Lions, right? But they actually, the playoffs just worked in their favor where they could sneak their way in. But they had a nice turnaround at the end of the season there, and it was at the perfect time because the Titans were just starting to fall apart. And this is probably the best matchup for them, honestly. Like, I think they have a very good shot of beating the Chargers this week. Lawrence has looked very impressive. The defense, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I mean, just last week, right? Like, when it came down to it, they came through. Etienne's a really good running back. Chark's had a really nice season. Zay Jones is pretty solid. Even Evan fucking Ingram somehow. And it helps that Peterson is their coach. He's been there before. I know the meme, right? What is it? Unbeatable. Fearless. Why do I always think he's the Russell Wilson?
Unlimited.
But I like the Jags. Now, I don't see the Jaguars making the Super Bowl just because I wouldn't dare say they're on the same playing field as like a Buffalo or a Cincinnati. They're clearly the weakest division winner in the AFC, but this is a very good stepping stone for them. And I think the Jaguars have the chance to run that division for at least the next 5 seasons if they develop right and, get some more pieces around Lawrence, Etienne, and all those guys.
So, yeah, this is sort of the next part of this question is because I don't think that they have much of a shot to do much in the playoffs. Maybe they could win a playoff game. They play the Chargers, so we'll see there. But, this is a stepping stone year for the most part, unless something crazy happens. Do you see them taking that next step and being a legitimate contender in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, no, I can see a way where that happens for sure. Like, if Trayvon Walker develops, they have a nice pass rusher. Trevor Lawrence is about, I think we'll definitely see if the trend continues when Lawrence plays next season because the quarterback's 3rd season or 4th season seems to be like the one where you see what he's capable of. Like, that's where that growth just seems to like finally emerge. Etienne's a nice running back that they have right now. So they have like all of these like pieces, right? Like you want to have the quarterback, the pass rusher, wideouts, some weapons. Devin Lloyd, he's a linebacker on the team. He's pretty solid. If they just keep building up the defense, maybe get a better line. Like, yeah, I could see Jacksonville being a competitive, like, top tier AFC team. Because also, like, keep in mind, like, their division, right? Like, Houston is a dumpster. The Colts just keep finding ways to, like, either underperform and like this year it was just everything fell apart for them, and they're going to be looking for. I think they're going to try and get a rookie quarterback, so that's probably going to set them back a couple years.
Yeah.
And then you have Tennessee, and I mean, Ryan Tannehill's probably not going to be their starter for very long. Derrick Henry, at some point, is going to slow down. It's just the nature of running backs. So, I think the Jaguars are in the perfect division and the perfect time frame to become like a serious threat.
Speaking of serious threats, maybe not a serious threat. Let's talk about Tampa Bay over in the NFC. So they went 8-9. I said they go 12-5. You said they go 13-4. Obviously, we were biased seeing them win a Super Bowl, and we don't really have that image out of our mind yet. But they really didn't look very good this year. What do you think? What do you think their shot is in the postseason?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers should not be in the playoffs. They really give me Seattle or Carolina vibes when they made the playoffs with losing records. They're just not good, and it's insane because all they really lost was Bruce Arians and Gronk. Like, it's been the same players, almost the same schemes, but the players just are not performing the same. Brady had a losing record for the first time in his 23 year career. This is the first time they've had a losing record with him as a like he's had a losing record. Mike Evans does not look the same. They've had a lot of line injuries. Their defense is still solid, but I wouldn't rely on them to stop Jalen Hurts or Deebo Samuel. So I don't see the Bucs' chances as very high. I think they will lose in the first round, most likely, but even if they do win, I don't see them making it any way past the divisional. And I think the Buccaneers are going to have to start rebuilding, or at least looking ahead to life without Brady much sooner than they would like.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the last year that Brady was in New England, and everyone still said, I don't know, it is Tom Brady, it is the Patriots, they could go on a run here, and they didn't. Now, they were in that game against Tennessee until the very end, and Brady threw his pick and went to the beaches after that, but I just can't help but think this is a similar situation where you will have people who can't get the image of Brady out of their head. This isn't a team that can contend. This isn't a team that can win. Now, do they have some players that have been very successful before that are really good? Yes, but it's just not a complete team. I don't believe in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that, like you said, they're going to have to rebuild here this next year because Brady's either going to retire or he's going to Vegas or one of those teams. He's not staying in Tampa. They have a coach that probably can't coach. So I think that this is sort of the last we're going to see of Tampa in the playoffs for a couple seasons at least. And the last time we'll see Tom Brady in a Tampa jersey.
Todd Bowles is a really good defensive coordinator, but this is his second coaching opportunity, and the problems that he had with the Jets are showing back up on Tampa Bay. He just can't be a head coach. Really good DC. I think if you're the Tampa Bay front office, you've already seen enough, and it's time to look for someone else.
Number 3 in the AFC is the Cincinnati Bengals. They went 12-4, a throwback because they only played 16 games because of obvious reasons. I said they'd go 11-6. You said they'd go 12-5. So we were about right there. So Cincinnati, can they do it again? Can they go back to the Super Bowl? What are their chances of going all the way?
Very, very high. Do you know that they're on a 7-8 game win streak right now?
It's a whole lot sneakier than the Niners because all I hear about is how the Niners are on a streak. Yeah. I don't hear anything about City.
8. They're on an 8 game win streak.
You'd never know because they don't talk about it.
The Bengals are a better team now than they were last year, and last year they made the Super Bowl. So I think the Bengals are the first team that we're talking about where I would consider them a Super Bowl pick. Joe Burrow is a really good quarterback. You have Joe Mixon, great running back. You Chase, Higgins, Boyd, right? And the biggest like factors now, their two defensive line rushers, they're playing really good football this season. I gotta apologize to Zach Taylor. Maybe he is a good head coach. Like, fuck, man. The Bengals, they went from a rough start to just looking like far and away one of the top 3 teams in the AFC, and that's what, turned out to be the case with the 3 seed. Now, I was just gonna say, they're definitely, in my opinion, like outside of Buffalo and Kansas City, but that's how I felt about them last year, and they made the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, I think that there's no reason why Cincinnati could not win at all. I think that almost everybody believes it's a 3-team race between the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills. I think that Cincinnati has been battle tested. They beat the Chiefs last year in Arrowhead to go to the Super Bowl. Obviously, there's a good chance they're going to play Buffalo and Kansas City if they're going to end up wanting to do it this year. But I think that they very well could do that. I echo a lot of what you say. Zach Taylor, I don't know, man. I guess he's good. I guess he's at least good enough to stay out of Joe Burrow's way. So if the Bengals are right back wearing those white helmets in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked.
those helmets are sick.
They are sick. Speaking of sick and in a disease kind of way, let's talk about the number 3 team in the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings.
I think it's time for me to mute my mic. Just gonna do a little boop.
All right, so the Minnesota Vikings went 13-4. I had them going 9-8. Brett had them going 10-7. And I'm gonna get on my soapbox here, so I want everyone to sit down and take a deep breath, because we need to talk. Me and Minnesota, let's have a heart-to-heart here. Minneapolis, Twin Cities, I love you, but we need to talk. I have a question for you, and it's not an easy question to ask. Was it worth it? No, seriously, was it worth it? No, I know. You're going to get defensive. You're going to start freaking out on me. You say, we won 13 games. We won the division. What are we supposed to do? Come on. But Minnesota, was it worth it? Do you really see yourself winning a Super Bowl this year? If the answer is no, then let's think about the next few years. I'm talking about the next few years when we have Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, Kirk Cousins making top money and getting older and older. I'm talking about our defense that doesn't look like it belongs in the Big 12 certain games. Was it worth it? Yes, we won 13 games. That's awesome. But I think even the most die-hard Vikings fans can admit that there were some really fluky games. There was a lot of good luck. And hey, there's no reason to apologize. There's no reason to apologize for 13 wins in a division. You only can do what your schedule says. You can only go in and play those teams and try to win as many games as possible, and you did. Congratulations. I'm just saying, was it worth this season? Because this is the peak of this core. This is the best you're ever going to see it, with Kirk Cousins under center, with Dalvin Cook behind him, with Adam Thielen lined up, with Harrison Smith, and with Eric Kendricks. You got a lot of bills to pay the next couple years. You pushed a lot of money into the future. And ultimately, you strapped a new GM and you strapped a new coach with the expectation of keeping a roster that we have been putting back on the field since 2017. Well, that 2017 team got their ass kicked by Philly. Their ass kicked. And then Philly went and won a Super Bowl on your turf. And what happened week 2 of this year? You got your ass kicked by Philly again, and they have rebuilt. You still have that team plus Kirk Cousins. So I ask you one more time, when all of this has been said, was it worth it? What do you think, Brett?
The Vikings are the biggest frauds in like a long time. I'm sorry, but like how I just don't get like they're just like they remind me a lot of the Mariners. I think I told you last time we talked. The Mariners in 2021 were just really good at like winning those one-run games. The Vikings, they just did that this season, but they haven't won. What was their only convincing win was what, against Green Bay week 1, right?
Green Bay week 1, and then this last week against the Bears practice squad, essentially.
Yeah. So that means out of 17 games, 15 of them you look beatable throughout most of the game. That's kind of crazy to think about when you're the 3 seed in an NFL playoff bracket. Yeah. Kirk, I mean, I'm sorry, but there's a reason that everyone memes on him for Monday Night Football and all that. He just shits the bed anytime there's actual cameras on him. When he's going to get those national fucking viewers, he freaks out. And that defense is bad. The Vikings defense is just bad, aside from like Zadarius Smith and Daniil Hunter, dude. Like,
and Shelley Island, of course.
And Shelley Island. Pat Pete's not that bad. He's had a good season.
He's been really good this year.
Yeah. I just don't trust the Vikings at all in the playoffs. I think O'Connell is a good coach. The good thing about the Vikings is that they're going up against the Giants. Even though I said the Giants have a good chance of beating them, I mean, the Vikings, they are division winners. They've won, how many, did you guys win 12? 12 or 13? 13, yeah. I mean, you still have to play the games to do that. I see the Vikings' Super Bowl chances as pretty low. I would say they're lower than Dallas, even though they're a higher seed.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be clear that even though I had quite the negative, surly rant there, I will say that this season has been a joy. It really has. It's been fun to see the craziness, the one-score heart attack games, the coming back from 33 points to get the biggest comeback in NFL history, a franchise record 61-yard field goal to win it against the Giants. I mean, it's been a blast. It really has. And at this point in the season, I can't change that we didn't go in a different direction once we got new coaching staff, new front office. So when I say all of this, it's more looking at the long term. Am I still going to enjoy having a playoff game again? Yes. Am I still going to go along for the ride here and root really hard for my team? Yes. I just have a hard time seeing us go further than, like, I think we could win the wild card. I also think we could lose the wild card, but I think we could win this one. But other than that, I'm not really seeing much more success. And so looking at it from like an analytical, long-term lens, it just feels like this is going to be a pretty fun to remember season, but we're not going to have such a fond memory of it when we're regressing the next 2 years because we have to pay so many bills. Speaking of bills.
Oh, what a segue. Look at that.
The number 2 team.
God damn.
In the AFC is the Buffalo Bills. We both pretty much knew what the Bills were going to be. I said they'd go 12-5. You said they'd go 13-4. They went 13-3. Obviously, they didn't have that extra game for the same reason the Bengals didn't. They were the preseason favorite to win the Super Bowl. Should they still be the favorite to win the Super Bowl, Brett?
Should they be the number 1 favorite? No.
Okay.
But I just like the Bills, man. Like, Josh Allen's really good. The only thing that's worrying about the Bills is that the defense, it's definitely missing Von Miller. Obviously, with what happened to Damar Hamlin, and with Damar Hamlin having been in that situation because he was playing for Micah Hyde, they're weak at safety right now. But I think the Bills just have a lot of fight in them because of what happened recently, right? And then you combine that with the fact that they're a top team in the NFL. I think their chances of making the Super Bowl are extremely high. I've thought all season that the Bills have a really strong chance to make the Super Bowl. There's really only one team that has been proven to be their kryptonite. And if they meet again, it's really just up to them finally, getting that off their back and finally being able to beat Kansas City.
How heartbreaking for Bills fans would it be if they went to overtime, the Bills get the ball first, they drive and score a touchdown, but then they have to give the ball back to Mahomes because because of the rule change. Mahomes comes back, drives, they go for 2 and win it. Like how much of a cuck would that be for the Bills who lost because they didn't get the chance to have the ball, and then what if they lost because the other team did have a chance to get the ball?
If that happened to them, they would know that God hates that franchise.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, the odds of that happening is so, like, that'd be just so... That's how I know we'd, like, someone in the Matrix is trolling
NFL
us.
scripted.
Or something,
That's
right?
going to happen if it's NFL scripted, for sure.
The NFL script writers are just like, what if we just, like, trolled them?
Anything else about Buffalo before we move on?
No, I mean, Buffalo, everything I've had to say about them, I mean, when you talk about Buffalo, it's literally the same thing. Like, everyone says the same thing about them. Josh Allen.
They're really good, and you wouldn't be surprised if they'd go to the Super Bowl and maybe even win it. And if they do lose, it'll probably be an overtime or it'll be a last-minute heartbreaker. And that city's experienced a lot of pain. Let's move on to our number 2 in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers. They are 13-4.
These assholes.
I said that they'd go 11-6 and make the playoffs. You said they'd go 8-9 and miss the playoffs. So 10 in a row. They got a rookie quarterback. They've got the best defense in the NFL. They've got some good weapons. What kind of damage can San Francisco do?
San Francisco is the team I fear the most personally for my team in the playoffs. That being said, I find the likelihood of them winning the Super Bowl to be very slim. If they go to the Super Bowl, I will be surprised. I just, like, I cannot believe a rookie quarterback can win the Super Bowl until it's happened before, you know, never say never. I get all of that. But in terms of the playoff bracket, I think the Niners can fuck some teams up. I mean, after what happened last year, I don't want to play the Niners ever again. And they match up really good against literally every team just because of how good that defense is. I know it gets annoying always hearing about Shanahan, but Shanahan is a really good coach, and his offenses work for a reason. I mean, there's a reason that Brock Purdy has looked very solid so far. And then, like, you know, McCaffrey, they have Debo. IU can run it too. Like, there's just a lot that the Niners can do overall. We'll just see if they can finally get that Super Bowl win that's been eluding them for a long time now. Like, they haven't won a Super Bowl longer than Dallas has, and they've been the 2 and have lost both times.
Yeah, San Francisco, they seem like the most complete team by far. Their defense is so stingy. Yes, they have a rookie quarterback, and we'll see if that's going to cause them problems. But he's throwing it to McCaffrey out of the backfield, to Kittle, to Samuel. It's a nightmare to match up with for any team. I get what you're saying. I think that it is hard to see a rookie quarterback ever winning a Super Bowl. I will say, though, that it feels like it will happen, and, you know, rookie quarterbacks are better and better than they ever have been. With this roster, it's like, man, shit, put my dog out as the quarterback, and I almost think he'll win a few games. Like, it's hard to see it happening, but would you agree that this may be the best opportunity that a rookie has had?
Do you think that if Josh Rosen was the quarterback of the Niners, he'd be good? Like, he would have been good if he had this team on him?
No.
Or like E.J. Manuel?
No, I think that those guys are
just someone that
are
sucks.
pretty. They tend to get in their own way, for sure.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about a rookie quarterback, and I think this is the best chance. Like, the only other rookie quarterback I can think of that's even played in the playoffs recently was Dak in 2016. Wait, did Lamar... Was that a playoff game when Lamar had to play and he looked awful?
I don't remember.
Because Joe Flacco got hurt? I forget. But it doesn't happen very often, so of course there's like a small sample size, and, you know, the odds of it happening are slim, so when it finally does happen, you know, it's going to be like, oh, holy shit. And I mean, Big Ben went to a conference game when he was a rookie.
Yeah.
So
Andrew Luck.
yeah, I just there's something about the Niners where they feel like the Braves, man, of like the 90s where they would always be there, like everyone talked about them. They're this powerhouse team. They'd always be going to the World Series, and then they would lose all the time. But the saving grace of that is that they finally did win a World Series, so there is a chance for the Niners. I'm just kind of skeptical about them.
For sure. The number 1 seed in the AFC is the Kansas City Chiefs, going 14-3. I had them going 12-5. You had them going 13-4. Can anybody stop the Kansas City Chiefs, or are they just going to win and it doesn't matter?
The Kansas City Chiefs go at the beat of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Those two, I mean, it's just unfair. Like, they're literally like Rodgers and Adams, right? But also Juju and Marquez. They've had really solid years. And the Chiefs defense, like, it's been much improved from last season. Chris Jones is having another really good year. The only team, I don't know, I think Kansas City might be, like, in my opinion, the toughest match, like the toughest team, like the strongest team. I know they're not the most complete team, but I mean, why would you bet against them at this point with what we've seen in the past and this season?
Yeah, I mean, there's almost nothing to say about Kansas City because they're so good and consistent that they're boring, man. Like, I don't even like to watch Kansas City games because it's like, oh, yep, okay, they're just going to play Madden, and Mahomes is going to throw between his legs and over his shoulder and behind his back, and they're going to have a ring around the rosy play where they stomp around and then get into formation. Like, they're just so good that you're just like, all right, so the Chiefs are either going to win or it'll be a weird fluky game, and they won't. But, it's like they win, they get the number 1 seed every other year. They're going to be in the Super Bowl every couple years. They could win every playoff game by 21 points and no one would be surprised. So
haven't they been to each conference championship game?
Yeah, 4 years in a row, right?
I think since Mahomes was the starter.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, they'll be there for a long time. I mean, so, it's no disrespect. I mean, it's just they're so good, they're boring.
That's fair.
But you know what isn't boring?
No.
Is how worked up Brett gets about his favorite team in the National Football League, the number 1 seed in the NFC, Philadelphia Eagles, going 14-3. I predicted that they'd go 10-7, and Brett said they'd go 9-8. Brett, since they're your favorite team, why don't you tell us about the Eagles?
I will talk about them professionally. I will save the rest for the pod. The Eagles are a very, very good team. I've been waiting for them to slip up, and they just never did. For some reason, teams just cannot seem to beat their zone running scheme that they have with Hurts and Sanders. Their defense is really good, really improved from last season, and I mean how A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are probably the best 2 wideouts, like, tandem. It's either, like, who else would you put against them? Like Chase and Higgins? Like, it's really good, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith.
Incredible. Incredible.
That being said, I fucking hate Nick Sirianni. He's so fake. He's fake tough, dude. He's a little pussy.
He's a competitor. I'm a competitor. We'll play rock, paper, scissors. You will play Uno.
I forgot about that shit, yeah. I think the Eagles have a good chance of making the Super Bowl. Like, a very good chance. Hurts did get hurt. Oh my god, Hurts hurt towards the end of the season, but he's back. We'll see if that impacts him at all during the playoffs. The Eagles are thankful that they got that bye to help him kind of get healthy a bit. And, I mean, But the thing, they might be like the number one seed, but I don't think they're better than the Niners personally.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say about Philadelphia is that they're a very good team. They beat my team's ass for sure. They earned their number one seed. They won the most games, and they have a very distinct style. They do a lot of RPOs. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, like that you said, are just so good as an offense. Their defense is pretty good too. Here's one thing that I think is interesting to think about is two teams that beat the Eagles this year before the Minshew game, because but the other two, it was Washington and Dallas. What do those two teams in those two games have in common? It was the second time that they played them. So I've been hearing that there are some thoughts throughout the league that playing the Eagles a second time, you're going to be able to match up a lot better than them because you're not going to be as freaked out by their scheme. I wonder if them playing the Giants or the Cowboys again, I wonder if those games are a lot closer. I mean, I know that they beat the Giants that second time, but the Giants weren't playing their starters. I just wonder if a rematch in the playoffs could be the Eagles' downfall, or if they're just going to steamroll them like they did the first time.
I don't want to doubt them anymore, because I like I said, I've been waiting all year to fucking roast the Eagles. But I think that's a really good point. Whoever brought that up, like, that really is the trend, right? Because they only lost to the Cowboys, the Saints randomly, and then fucking
and the Saints. What was when they had Minshew, right?
Yeah, that was when Hurts was hurt. But the one thing I'll say about the Eagles is they do have these games, or they've had games, and I didn't say this about other teams because obviously other teams have done this as well, but some of these scores are kind of not convincing me, right? You only beat the Bears by 5. You only beat the Packers by a touchdown. They barely beat the Colts. I don't know. They barely beat the Cardinals earlier in the season. They barely beat the Lions week 1. I guess what I'm saying is that they're not this unbeatable machine like everyone was talking about them.
Okay, so let's talk matchups, and let's both pick our brackets and give a Super Bowl champion like we did at the beginning of the season, and see if we have different teams. See if we have now that we have the real matchups. So let's go.
It's like the Redux.
This is the Redux. You get a mulligan. This is your chance to take your stupid opinions and my stupid opinions and fix them. So let's go to the Dolphins against the Bills. Who you got winning that game?
I have Buffalo winning that game by a lot. No Tua pretty much puts the Dolphins out of it. I'm sorry, but the Bills are just that good.
I also have the Bills. It's just not really going to be a competitive game. Again, good season for the Dolphins, but yeah, that's about all you can say about it. Let's go over to the Seahawks-Niners.
I like the Seahawk conspiracy theory, or a theory that, seeing the Niners again, they might do something here, but it's just very unlikely. The Niners are a very, very good team. Like you said, they're the most complete team, and for Seattle to upset the 2 seed, I just don't see it happening. I don't even think the 7th seed has won yet. I know it's only been around for, 3 seasons now, but I would be very surprised if Seattle beat the Niners.
I've also got the Niners. I was tempted to go upset, but at the end of the day, I think that the Hawks just don't have the team to take down this really stacked Niners team. So with that, let's go back over to the AFC, and let's go Ravens-Bengals.
I'm going to go with Joe Burr. How could you not? We don't know if Lamar's going to play, and even if Lamar plays, it's going to be the first time in about a month, and he wasn't looking too hot. I think Harbaugh gets fired if they lose this game. And, Bengals. Got to take the Bengals.
Got to take the Bengals. I agree with that, everything you said. go Bengals. I think, even if Lamar's back, I think that he's been out for a long time. You got to think he might be rusty. The Bengals are on fire. You got to go with the Bengals. So let's move back over to the Vikings against the Giants.
This is one of my 2 upsets. I have the New York Giants upsetting the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants are a very scrappy team, and I think that's not who Minnesota wants to pair up against, because a team that fights is not good for a team that is able to just barely eke out wins, in my opinion.
Yeah, we played them earlier this year on Christmas Eve, and the Giants won, we won by a 61-yard field goal at the end of regulation. I could honestly flip a coin to decide who I think is going to win this game. It's so close. I think it's going to be a one-score game. We're 11-0 in one-score games, so maybe you could say if it's going to be close, you might as well pick the Vikings. I'm going to pick the Giants here. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Anything could happen. But I think that the bad taste in my mouth from playing Detroit and losing, and then playing Green Bay and losing, and getting our shit kicked in at Lambeau, I'm not feeling the optimism. So I'm going to be happy to watch the game, but I'm not going to be fully confident in a Vikings win. So I'll go with the Giants in a very, very hard decision. Okay, so let's move over to the Chargers against the Jags. What do you think?
I hinted another upset. This is the other one. I believe the Jaguars are going to upset the Chargers, and I don't really know why. I think I just don't trust Brandon Staley. I think he'll make a bad decision during this game. I think Herbert's a really good quarterback, but for the Chargers to actually win some playoff games, I think they need just a little bit more.
The Jags would be funny, so that's enough of an argument on its own. Brett, I shouldn't do this.
Oh, no.
But I'm going to pick the Chargers. I have burned myself many times picking the Chargers, and just like Brandon Staley, man, I can't stop. So I'm picking the Chargers to win. And let's move to our last matchup, and that's the Bucks against the Cowboys. You got some personal bias going on. What's your prediction?
Cowboys by 20. That's not my real prediction score. It's just a meme in the subreddit. But I'm picking Dallas. I'm sick of the fucking Tom Brady talk. There's literally, if it was not Tom Brady quarterbacking this team, there would be no concern over Dallas losing. I know they've looked really bad the last couple months, but I mean, Big Mike might be Big Mike, but he's won a Super Bowl before. These guys have been to playoff games before. It's not like they're rookies. I mean, they were literally just in the playoffs last year, which is the first time that's happened since Romo was quarterback. So I'm going to pick Dallas. Tampa Bay is just super weak, and I would be really surprised if Todd Bowles could win a playoff game.
Yeah, same exact kind of sentiment. I got the Cowboys. I don't think that they look amazing, but I just think that they're a better team right now than the Bucks. Brady is going to have a good game and all that, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to do it in the end. I got the Cowboys winning, and this means that we have 3 of the 4 same matchups in the divisional round. The only difference is that the Chiefs in my bracket are going to play the Chargers. The Chiefs in your bracket are going to play the Jags. So I guess let's start there. Chiefs, Jags in your bracket. Who do you got winning that one, buddy?
I have the Chiefs winning that one. Good season for the Jaguars. Take that and grow, learn from it. But there's just no way that they're going to be able to compete with Mahomes and co.
For sure. So I got the Chiefs, Chargers, and
Oh my fucking God, you didn't.
I picked the Chargers, man. Look,
This is literally like what you did at the beginning of the year.
So, look, the Chargers and the Chiefs, they play these classic games. Half the time they go to overtime, and the Chiefs always find a way to win. But I don't know, man. I don't know, Jim. I don't know, Jim. Oh, God. I got to choose the Chargers. I gotta.
You'd become the biggest Chargers fan.
Manifest Chargers success. I think that the Chiefs are such a good team, and I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but even the best teams have their hiccups. Even the dynasties have their years where they just don't do well. Why not the Chargers, Brett? Why not the Chargers?
Go Chargers! That's all I think of.
All right, let's move over to the NFC. We both have the Eagles playing the Giants. What do you see happening there?
I would love for the Giants to win, but I don't see that happening. I like the idea you had about, third time and all that, but like I said earlier, I mean, Daniel Jones is not a very convincing quarterback. And if a defense is going to stop Saquon, Phillies has to be up there. And yeah, I mean, I know that they played last week and that was against the backups and stuff like that. But I mean, earlier in the season, the Eagles destroyed the Giants. So I have no reason to believe it wouldn't be different in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you. As much as I laid out an idea of a team playing them twice could be their downfall, I think in this particular one, the Giants, the second round of the playoffs with a rested Eagles team, I just don't see the Giants doing it. Maybe if there was a team that met them in the conference championship, that they'd, maybe that's where my theory comes in. I don't know, but I just don't see the Giants on, or maybe if the Cowboys play them in the divisional, maybe, but I just don't see it. So I got the Eagles winning that one as well. Over to the AFC, Bengals-Bills, a game that didn't get finished for obvious reasons. Who do you have winning this one? This one would be at the Bills.
You know what's funny about this matchup is that everyone is already guaranteeing that this game is going to happen. Like they've already said, I'm excited for next week for the Bills-Bengals game. So I find that funny, but I'm gonna go with the Bills. They're my preseason Super Bowl pick. And really, it really is kind of a toss-up in my eyes, too. Like, if someone said that they thought the Bengals were a better team, I could completely understand it as well. I don't know, man. I feel like the Bills, this is their time. If they're going to upset or finally break through, this is the year to do it.
Absolutely. And I also got the Bills. I think the Bengals are so good, and I wouldn't be shocked if they won. It's just that at the Bills, with their fans this year, what's happened before, I'm going with the Bills. I think it'll be close. I'm going with the Bills. So let's move over to Niners-Cowboys divisional round. We both had that matchup. Are you ready to embrace your role as a delusional Cowboys fan and predict an NFC championship berth?
I would love nothing more. Not even just because of that, but I don't want to have both of my conference games being the 1 and 2 seeds. But the Niners, they are the one team that matches up super well against us on both sides of the ball. It would be very surprising if we went up against Philly. There's a better shot of that happening, but unfortunately, it's going to be 2 years in a row of the Cowboys getting busted by San Francisco.
Yeah, I got the same thing happening. It's the Cowboys. I'm sorry. I don't see them beating the Niners. The Niners are just too complete of a team right now. So, yeah, we got the same NFC championship, the 1 against the 2. We have a slightly different AFC. Let's go to the AFC. So you got the Chiefs against the Bills. This is probably the most, the easiest to predict before the season, during the season, and now start of the postseason. And it probably is the two best teams, so rightfully so. Who do you have winning this game?
Well, let me ask you real quick: is Bills Chiefs starting to become a little bit of a rivalry there? You know,
It's not a rivalry until the Bills win it.
that's true. Which is what is going to happen in this conference game. I think the Bills finally break through. Do it for DeMar, do it for Buffalo. Kansas City's great. And they'll be back there probably. I would be very surprised if Mahomes doesn't win another Super Bowl, but it won't be till at least 2024.
Okay. So I got Bills Chargers, and I say the Bills beat them
Oh, you didn't
65-7. The Bills beat them big time. No, Bills big time. I mean, they beat them by probably 30 points. Chargers have a Cinderella run and then kind of get smoked. Kind of like what Tennessee did a few years ago, where you're like, when is this ride going to end? And then they got smoked. So, yeah, good run by the Chargers, but the Bills beat them. They go to the Super Bowl against one of these next two teams. So we got the Eagles against the 49ers in the NFC Championship. Who do you got?
Before I answer, I just want to say, before my pick, this is like a nightmare situation for me. I despise the Eagles with every inch of my body, but I also really, really dislike San Francisco. So to see these two teams going up against each other for a trip to the Super Bowl makes me puke. But not as much as my pick is going to make me want to puke, because I picked the Philadelphia Eagles to represent the NFC. Brock Purdy finally has his bad game and chokes when it matters most.
It wouldn't be surprising if that was in Philadelphia, a hostile environment like that.
Yeah, and it's got to go through Philly, right? The playoffs. So I got Bills versus Eagles for the Super Bowl. Ugh.
So I see where you're coming from, but I am going with the Niners. I have the same matchup that I did before the season. I can't go against it, man. I gotta, the teams look good right now. It's not far-fetched to say this. I'm still going Bills Niners, and I say the Niners are gonna win because that's what I said before the season started. Screw it. Why not? Rookie quarterback. That's what I'm saying. Who do you got winning your matchup of Bills?
I have the
Eagles?
Bills because fuck the Eagles. I will never pick the Eagles to win any Super Bowl. Get the fuck out of here, Philly. Also, I like that it's my Super Bowl matchup as well, but I changed one green team for another green team. And I hate both of those green teams.
Yeah, so you heard it here first, folks. We didn't learn from our mistakes. I can't quit the Chargers. It's a problem. I'm going to have to check into rehab. I have the same exact matchup in the Super Bowl. Brett, is there anything else you want to talk about? The future, the present of the NFL, life, philosophy, politics, anything before we get going?
Well, let's keep it NFL related for sure. Yeah, I'm very excited. I think the NFL this year, it's definitely finally the end of a lot of, I guess, whatever era you want to call that. From when we were in high school, right? Like, a lot of those quarterbacks are finally gone. Matt Ryan's going to retire. Cam Newton's already gone. Russ looks cooked. Brady and Rodgers are most likely going to retire. And now we have these newer guys, right? Like Trevor Lawrence is coming in. Mahomes has been there for a while now, right? So I'm pretty excited for the state of where football is right now.
Yeah, it's funny because, on the NFC side, you got Brady, who's obviously 45. They won't stop telling you that. You got Kirk, who's I think he's 34, 35. Rodgers almost made the playoffs, and he's 39. And then you look over at the AFC. Do you know what the oldest quarterback in the AFC is?
Isn't it Patrick
Playoff
Mahomes,
team?
right?
It's Patrick Mahomes at 27
Yeah.
years old. We are seeing a new era Where the older quarterbacks, I mean, Matt Stafford, he won a Super Bowl last year, but he got hurt this year. We don't know his future. Brady's obviously pretty close. Maybe he'll go for another year or two, but he's pretty close. Rodgers looks like he's in one of his last years. So we are, Matt Ryan sucks. So we're entering a brand new era, and I can't wait to see what it brings. I hope that my team also gets a younger quarterback soon, please.
My quarterback's about to turn 30, so we might need
Happy
a new one in a
birthday,
couple years.
Dak.
What?
Happy birthday, Dak.
Well, no, not today.
Oh, sorry.
He's 29. He turned 30 in like September or some shit. I don't know.
Happy birthday.
Niners. So they're gonna have to make a decision, and we're not gonna when we do the podcast for next season. Most likely, it'll have already happened, right?
Yeah.
So who's your prediction for the quarterback they're gonna get rid of?
So Jimmy G's gonna walk for sure.
Mm.
He's just gonna want to go somewhere where he's gonna start. And then I feel like they're gonna keep Lance and Purdy because they're not paying him anything, and there's gonna be like a competition. So I don't think that they're gonna like trade one of them away yet and try to, I think that they're just gonna say, well, we need a backup anyway, so we're gonna keep one of them. And I think
Who
Jimmy
do you think
walks.
is gonna be the San Francisco like quarterback for the future? If you had the
Yeah,
pick.
so if Purdy goes on a deep run here, and I think he does, then it'd be him. And maybe if they just decide it's Purdy's job because he went to this game or went to that game, if they get bounced in the second round, I think it's probably Lance again because of how much they invested in him. I do see a future where Purdy could play really well and they could trade Lance as like they wouldn't get a ton back from him, but at the same time it's hard to imagine that they spend like 3 first rounders for him.
Yeah, a lot.
And then they don't try to play him later. Like, would trading him away for a third and a second be career suicide for the GM there? I mean, so it's hard to say. Like, what do you have any opinions on this?
I mean, if this was the old way NFL like teams used to like treat quarterbacks, the Niners would be in like paradise, right? Because it used to be like, oh, the moment Jimmy starts playing like shit, we replace him with Trey Lance. And then if Trey Lance plays like shit, we're gonna fucking replace him with Brock Purdy. But they're all gonna still be on the roster. But now that players can like voice things and they can ask for trades and all that, I think if Brock Purdy makes it far, you're going to have that competition, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance would ask for a trade, because if you're like the number 3 overall pick, you don't want to sit on the bench for a guy is he younger than him, Brock Purdy? Because he's from the other draft. If you're like Trey Lance, right, why would you want to sit behind the guy that's literally like your age when you're like the number 3 overall pick?
Well, if they're gonna trade him, maybe we bring him home. He's from Minnesota. You know what I'm saying?
You want that Trey Lance?
Well, I'm desperate.
The hate for Kirk is that much. Just fucking get him out of here.
I mean, it's more like he's not really a scheme fit. Like, O'Connell has made him work okay, but like if you just watch Kirk this year, he's so inaccurate. His timing is bad. He shits his pants and throws it to TJ Hawkinson on a 3rd and 18 for like a 4-yard gain. And it's just like, I feel like O'Connell's offense is good, but like Kirk can only do so much in it. Plus he's like 35 right now. So it's like, do you really want to just bring him back every year? I don't think you do. I think you want to try to find a newer age quarterback that might fit that scheme a little better. Now, is it Trey Lance that option? I don't know that anybody knows if he can play. But yeah, I'm pretty over Kirk at this point, and I've been over Kirk, but a lot of people just kept blaming everything else around him, and I think every time you try to ask too much of him, like we have this year, and granted, he's had some clutch moments. He's been very clutch, but he's had a lot of issues. And if you watch all of our games, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about.
It's crazy that Kirk is from the same draft Russell Wilson's from. You don't think of him being like the same just because he sat behind RG3 for a long time.
Yeah, that's right.
There.
Yeah.
Where do you think Derek Carr is gonna play next year?
Tennessee Titans. Yeehaw!
Really? You think he's gonna go to the Titans?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like them or Indy, right?
No, I'd go to New York, bro.
Got New York. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Jets.
I would want to go to New York. They'd probably want Jimmy though.
Do you think they want Jimmy because of Salah?
He's more of a New Yorker.
I think that Derek Carr would be a better choice than Jimmy in New York, but maybe the connection's enough for Jimmy and Salah to connect.
Yep.
All right, everybody, enjoy your finality of the NFL season, and
go watch the Mario movie. Remember, kids, you have to wear a sock on your penis or else you get zucked. You don't want to get zucked?